Everyone knows the Earth is big, flat, and if you dig too far down, you land on the big turtle that carries us all through space. But DK Bananza brings us a whole new type of world to consider, where the planet is actually made up of a bunch of little pocket worlds layered up on top of each other all the way down to the center of the Earth. And while every layer acts as its own fun and unique little video game level, I don't care about the gameplay function of these places today. Instead, I'm here to ask the question, how long could you survive if you actually had to live in any of these places? And I don't mean as Donkey Kong. I mean, how long could you survive? Like as a human in a survival situation. Like sure, living in a place that gives out free 1,000-foot-tall cheeseburgers every day sounds easy. But what are you gonna do when you get thrown into a Dairy Queen freezer the size of downtown Boston, buddy? You got a plan for this? Because I do. The world of DK Bananza isn't as easygoing as it may first appear. But fear not, because I have taken a look at every single level in DK Bananza and ranked them, not only based on how long you could survive in each level, but also how well you can survive in them. But before that, let's lay down the ground rules here. 1. Once we arrive in these levels, we're not allowed to leave to get resources from somewhere else. That would make it too easy. We're going in with nothing but the clothes on our back, and we're staying there. And 2, we're going to be starting each layer in the exact same place DK does. I mean, not the exact same place. He does fall out of the sky into most of these levels, and well, I don't think we would be able to survive that. So we're going to start in the same place we gain control of DK on the ground. And what a better place to start than the very first place where DK makes his way into the game itself, Ingot Isle. Okay, so we can't do that. We are one frame into this game and we're already stuck. But just to keep things interesting, let's say that this wall isn't here. How would we fare then? Okay, so it turns out the tutorial level in a game about smashing through solid stone walls might not be the easiest place to navigate. But we do have some things going for us here though. There's water dripping from the ceiling. I mean, we don't have a cup or anything to hold the water in, but we can always just kind of look up and let it drip into our mouths. So at the very least, we aren't dying of dehydration. But there's still no food here. So surviving in these mines would normally be impossible. But this is not a normal day for these mines. Remember, we're spawning in with the same conditions DK does, and just 20 minutes after DK arrives, so does the game's main villain. Void Kong appears on the scene, unsheaths DK's little Kong, and causes the entirety of the mining base on Ingot Isle to fall several hundred feet into the earth. So, I actually think we would die even faster than normal here, honestly. This place really sucks. But none of the monkeys seem to die from the fall, and I don't think monkeys are typically immune to fall damage. So let's just throw any logic out the window and say we survived this fall and carry on from here for the fun of it. Is there any scenario where survival is possible? Surprisingly, if we somehow survive everything else, I think the answer would actually be yes. As long as we can actually get to the other spider monkeys, that is. You see, for some bizarre reason, all of these monkeys can canonically speak English, which means we can communicate with them. And there's just been a major disaster. And disaster is really just another word for opportunity. You see, the chaos of the city's sudden foundational destruction provides us with an opening to insert ourselves into a society that may otherwise normally reject us, allowing us to get a job working here. Now, I know it's easy to walk into a city and say you're going to be able to get a job. I did that right after college and then spent the next 12 months playing Persona 5 all day because no one would fucking hire me. So the real make or break factor here is that we need to actually be employable. Do we have any special skills that makes us useful here? Well, most of the labor force here are these 3-foot tall, 90-pound spider monkeys, and they can barely swing a pickaxe without falling over. So, as regular humans, we actually do have a significant size and strength advantage over them, which we can leverage to get a job in the mining crew in exchange for food and water. Now, I don't see any other humans around, so I don't know if these monkeys would actually like us being here, but so long as we're one of their top workers, I feel they'll likely tolerate us at the very least, and our survival would be secure. But that's enough about hypotheticals where we actually have to work for a living, because it's time for our very first homelessness experience as we head down to the next layer and first full level of the game. Welcome to the Lagoon layer, a moist, yellow, grassy cliffscape, where, right off the bat, there's a problem we need to contend with. That being the flying monsters around here that want to kill us. These are extremely dangerous. However, like most video game enemies, they aren't exactly hard to avoid. Like just a brisk walk by them and we should be in the clear. Just look at these things. They are not attacking fast enough to be a serious threat to survival. However, not getting killed is only the first step in surviving. We need to find both food and water. Now, in a cutscene early on, we see that the water flowing from the hole we fell into is from a river, so it's a pretty safe bet that the water coming from the ceiling here is fresh, and that all these puddles and the balls of water floating in the air are drinkable. Why is there water just floating in the air? Do yourself a favor and don't worry about the physics and logic in this game too much. It's never going to make a lot of sense. There is, however, one small problem in that when we first arrive here, there's a crisis unfolding in that the water at some point has stopped flowing into this lagoon and everything is slowly drying up. I don't really see how we can call this massive torrent from the sky drying up, but whatever. Let's just say that we're not getting any more water. Do we already have enough here to survive off of? Normally, we would need to do some stupid nerd shit and measure it all out, but this game actually gives you a bunch of cool tools that provide information on the environment. The best one being that every time this little idiot savant smashes something, he takes note, allowing him to keep a meticulous mental record of all matter obliterated at his hands, viewable at any time in this menu. By looking at our water smashing stat both before and after breaking one of these water balls, we can find that there's about 266 cubic meters of water in each of them. That's 70,269.8 gallons, or 192 years of water at a gallon per day. And we have like 5 of these things that we can access. We will never be thirsty. All we need now is food. And if we climb down to this little cave here, we'll find that these caves are covered in shelf mushrooms, which are ripe for the picking. All we need to figure out now is how much shroom we have. Now, unfortunately, mushroom is not a tracked stat, so we're going to have to calculate this one ourselves. Now, these mushrooms are pretty close to being just half a cone, so if we can just find their height and width and plug it into this formula, we should be able to find the volume. But how exactly are we supposed to find those measurements? After all, there doesn't really exist any rulers in this game, except, of course, for the one we're playing as. Since DK can be stood next to any object in the game, that means that the size of any object can always be measured in relation to Donkey Kong. So all we need to do is figure out how big DK is, and then we can figure out the actual size of any object in the game. Now here's the problem. I couldn't find an official height for DK. DK does have a height listed in the Mario Wiki, but the Mario Wiki is just terrible. According to the wiki, in Donkey Kong 64, we find out that Donkey Kong is 800 pounds and 6'1" tall while on his knuckles. This is half true, and not the half I really care about. While the game does say that he's 800 pounds, at no point does it say how tall this goofy looking freak is. So, where is that number coming from? Well, if you look at the citations, apparently it comes from the Death Battle wiki. What the fuck is the Death Battle wiki? That number seems to come from this 2015 DK vs Knuckles video where they just kinda state the measurement with 0 citation whatsoever. That is one less citation than even the wiki had. And that means the wiki cited an entirely unverified factoid from a fucking YouTube video about a gorilla punching an echidna. Also 6'1" to where exactly? Just the top of his skull, or including the little curved, you know, the what the fuck is that thing? You know, I wasn't a fan of DK's remodel when they first showed it, but I'm glad he got one now. You can actually see that thing waving in the newest game, so even though canonically it's just hair now, unless it just started writhing at some point, but I'll try not to think about that. Anyway, I have to find DK's height myself. Now, Mario has an official height straight from Nintendo, and these two do tend to inhabit the same room from time to time. So if I can just get a good picture of Mario and DK together, we can figure it out from there. I was going to use Smash Bros until I remembered that Olimar is canonically like half an inch tall, and well, I mean, I just don't think we can trust any of the heights in this game. So I decided to use Mario Kart World instead. Just kind of took a screenshot of both of them standing up as straight as I could get in order to compare. But these poses of them dancing in the character selection screen are taken at different zoom levels. Meaning, I can't just put the screenshots next to each other and compare. I gotta chase down this Italian-American fuck for 15 minutes and then take a screenshot of Mario and DK actually sitting next to each other in game. Then resize the screenshots I took of them standing up as straight as possible in order to match how big their heads are sitting down next to each other. And then I can measure their height. Based on the fact that Mario has an official height of 155 centimeters or 5'1", I found that DK is somewhere between 187 to 198 centimeters, or between 6'2" and 6'6". Hard to be exact when they both keep bouncing, so I'm just gonna split the difference here and call DK 6'4". I'm also not including the tufts of hair on top of his head because I don't want to acknowledge this. Now, measuring this giant mushroom next to DK, we can figure out its height and width to determine that it has a very rough volume of about 2,333,340 cubic centimeters. This mushroom I found lying around in the grocery store has about 60 calories in every 236.59 cubic centimeters. So, with a bit more division, we can determine that this mushroom has about 590,981 calories worth of food in it, which at 2,000 calories per day comes out to over 295 days worth of food. The best thing here though is that there are 7 of these big mushrooms we could conceivably reach, and dozens of tiny ones growing all over the cliff, meaning that by the time we finish one, another one very well could have grown to replace it. Hell, given the size of this thing and the fact that we'd be eating less than 1% of its mass every day, it might even begin to heal back before we even finish eating it, allowing us to just rotate between the mushrooms. Now, yeah, they have some sort of a nutritional deficit from just eating one type of food forever, but A, these are fictional mushrooms, and therefore we can't say for sure there would be any nutritional reason we can't just live off these forever. And B, in addition to the mushrooms, there's also these crabs running around all over the place. And we could just kind of eat those every now and again for some extra protein. So we really don't have too much we need to worry about here. At least not in terms of food and water. You see, I've been hiding a very important piece of information up until now. When you enter the Lagoon layer, the very first thing you see is this stone tablet with a message engraved upon it. That message essentially being, outsiders, get out. Typically, not something you want to see when entering a town. This is kind of a roll up the windows and don't stop the car no matter what sort of a place. The residents of this lair are racist, and even worse, they're a bunch of filthy, dirty fucking chimps too. This is a problem because I am a fish and you are a human, meaning they're gonna be racist against us. These motherfuckers are already talking about throwing bombs at the other outsiders. They only ever warm up to DK after they see him throwing bombs at the other outsiders first. If these guys find us, they're gonna kill us. Our best chance to hide is if we climb down these cliffs next to where we spawn in, and then just kind of hang out in this cave area. Everything I've talked about so far is already in this area, so in theory, we can live down here indefinitely. But there's already monkeys sitting on top of the cave we'd be hiding in. How long can we really hope to last until one spots us? A few days? A week? Maybe a month? There's really no way of knowing for sure, but sooner or later, one will find us, and they will tell their friends, and from there, it's only a matter of time until we meet our end at the hands of one of these purple exploding rocks. This layer is temporarily survivable at best, with the length of time coming down entirely to how long you're personally able to stay hidden for. But if I had to say one good thing about the Lagoon layer, it's that despite the dozens of monkeys actively trying to hunt us down, I still think we somehow have a better shot here than the layer beneath it. Moving down, we come to the Hilltop layer, featuring a hilltop and not all that much more. Really living up to the name here. On this hilltop, however, there is a small village, home to a special race of whimsical little critters called the Fractones. And they're much more friendly than the monkeys too, even welcoming DK into their home, no questions asked. Aside from them though, resources are scarce. I don't actually think the rock people count as a resource either now that I say it out loud. All there is for us here is a lot of mud with a few pools of water here and there, which not only gives us water to drink right now, but also implies that it likely rains here, meaning we'll have plenty more to collect in the future. But as far as food goes, the only organic material on this layer are these moles digging around, but they're just so goddamn fast. DK can't even catch them. And this gorilla is a goddamn walking force of nature. If a gorilla who can atomize 10 cubic meters of dirt with a single swing of his arms can't keep pace with something tunneling through the ground, there's not a chance in hell we are. But even with the moles out of reach, there's still one other potential source of food here. The titular object of the whole game, the Bananzas. But for that, we're going to have to answer the question, can you eat a banana? I mean, yeah, probably. I know that sounds like a stupid question on the surface, but these bananas are special. And not just because they're fucking 8 feet tall. In case you don't already know the banana lore, these giant bananas we find lying around in the game aren't grown on a tree. They grow out of the core of the earth. If that sounds weird and confusing, that's because it is. They just kind of drop that lore halfway through the game and don't really provide any further explanation as to how that happens. Technically, they aren't even bananas at all. They're bananium gems, which appear to be more gem-like than food-like when you look at them. But when DK eats them, the game doesn't go, "Oh, big rock." They say, and I don't see DK eating any of the other rocks we find in this game. So I'm just gonna say that these are edible and taste like normal bananas. I don't care what anyone says, they're just normal bananas encased in a crystal shell, which may sound hard to open, but I mean, like, just smack them with a rock a bit and I'm sure we can get them out of there eventually. Bananas have a very irregular shape and there's no good formula to calculate them. So I just split it into like 7 cylinders and 2 cones when calculating it and found there to be very roughly 14,266,829 cubic centimeters of nana here, about 91,395 times the volume of a normal banana, and 4,798 days worth of calories. That's 13.14 years of nothing but banana to eat. I also included the peel in that because not only do I not know how thick the peel of these giant bananas will be, but also because banana peels are technically edible in real life, and letting perfectly good edible skin go to waste in a survival situation is always a terrible idea. This tastes like shit. But how many bananas do we have access to in this level? And is it enough to survive off of? Well, if we're spawned into the same location DK is under the same circumstances, there's 5 right off the bat for us. Just don't ask how the boss who drops these things died. We're gonna ignore that part of the logic. Plus, we can get 2 more bananas from helping this fractone repair itself. Getting this one shard out of the hole is tricky, but if you just throw enough dirt down there, he eventually climbs out on his own, so no big problem. And then there's one final banana that just kind of floats around in this field. This one's tricky because it's too high up to reach most of the time, but if we just kind of smack it with a rock every time it floats by this low point, I think we can get it eventually. That brings us to a total of 8 bananas I think a normal human could actually get in this level, or 105 years worth of delicious, nutritious rocks. But I already said this level wasn't survivable, didn't I? So, what's the catch? Well, unfortunately, if DK and these monkeys can eat these bananas, then so can bacteria and fungi. So, I'm assuming after we crack open one of these bad yellow boys, it's going to begin to go bad and eventually rot, becoming inedible. Now, with preservation, this could theoretically be sidestepped, and maybe that'll become important later. But I don't think we have many options for preserving these things on this hilltop full of nothing but mud and rocks. In my experience, if we want to get a little ambitious, these fruits can stay edible for about 2 days out in the open, but we're really not going to be able to stretch these things out longer than that. But even though they'll begin to rot, we still have a way to get more than 2 days of food out of them, thanks to my favorite of the 7 deadly sins. Lust. No, it's gluttony. I'm gonna stuff myself until I bust every day, intaking far more calories than I need and storing the excess as body fat. There is, of course, a limit to how much fat a human can produce in a day, very roughly being around 6,000 extra calories worth. But that does mean that every day we can eat about 4 days worth of food, and with 8 bananas lasting 2 days each, we have 64 days worth of calories here. It'll take probably an extra month or so to starve to death as we burn off the extra body fat we came in with, but after 90 to 120 days, death would be an inevitable outcome. But that's enough of this moist little hilltop, because it's time for us to move forward to a polar opposite environment, a big dry canyon. The canyon layer, a beautiful desert dotted with a bunch of smokestacks, filling the air with the most radiant, unidentified chemicals you've ever seen in your life. You know how when oil is spilled into a puddle, it makes a little rainbow sheen on the ground? When I was a little kid, around 6 years old, my friends and I used to call those puddles rainbow water. We used to play at it because we thought it would make us run super fast like Sonic if we got enough of it on us. It's not really relevant to our survival situation. I just wanted to see if any of you did that too when you were a kid, or if my parents put me in the special class and no one ever told me. Anyway, we need to find our way out of this cave we find ourselves in. Now, the way ahead of us is blocked with a concrete wall, but if we take the side exit onto this overhang, we can find this cliff, which is our only path forward to salvation. Now, can a human free climb a 60-foot tall cliff? Yes. Can the doughy white nerd I use as my human proxy for these videos climb a 60-foot tall cliff? No, he's dying right here. But for people who don't sit around playing video games all day, climbing this, while dangerous, is within the realm of possibility. So I'm gonna hand wave this massive obstacle away and say we can move forward from here. Now, once you get to the top, you do have to rush out of the way of a couple enemies. But once you do, it's relatively easy to get to this minecart and then across this canyon to where we'll be spending the rest of our stupid, worthless lives. But how long will that be? And what exactly is there for us to survive on in this desert? There is a common piece of advice out there that if you're stuck in a desert, you can just drill a hole into a cactus and drink the sugar water out of it like an energy drink that hurts you from the outside instead of the inside. And this is a terrible fucking idea. While it is true that a lot of cactuses do store juice and fluids, most of those fluids have extremely high concentrations of various alkaloids, which often act as a natural pesticide. You ever get thirsty and crack open a can of Raid with the boys? No, you don't, because then you wouldn't be watching this video. You would be dead. For my research, the only cactuses you can actually drink from are called fishhook barrel cactuses. Those are the short little ball ones that just sit on the ground all day. Our only true source of water is going to lay beyond just a couple of more cliffs and under this town, which is situated atop a small watering hole, which is full of water. Now, the villagers access the water through this hole in the ground, and, well, you could jump 30 feet down there, simultaneously killing yourself and poisoning the town's water supply. You can also just use the back entrance. Now, you gotta climb down another 10-foot cliff every time you want to go get water, but let's be honest, if you've managed to get to this village in the first place, you've already climbed way more than this, so this really shouldn't be a major issue. But what if we get sick or old or lose our strength? Are we simply going to dehydrate here once we can't climb down anymore? Well, I've developed a little solution I like to call a shovel. We're just gonna toss sand down the cliff and make a big sand ramp. I mean, it will take a little while to make a 10-foot pile of sand, but it's not like we have all that much to do here. And once we do finish the job, we can just walk down there anytime we like. But water is rare in the desert, and while aquifers like this typically refill slowly over time, what if it just doesn't? What if this is everything we have? Is this enough water to last us for the rest of our lives? Now, water smashing isn't tracked on this level, and it's not very easy to measure this pool exactly because it has a very irregular shape. But we can start by dividing it up into two pools. This small triangle-ish pool on the left, and this absolutely massive pool on the right. Looking at the smaller left-hand pool, the height is about 8.7 DKs, and the width is about 8.2. The depth of the water is a little bit harder to measure, but it's clearly more than 1 DK deep. I estimate around 1.7 to 1.8, but we'll round it down and just call it 1.5 DKs deep just to be conservative. Plugging all this together, along with the fact that DK is around 193 centimeters, we get that there's about 85,262 gallons of water, or over 233 years worth of the stuff at a gallon per day. I mean, this wall curves in a bit on the height dimension, so the pool is a bit smaller than that, but not that much smaller. And all of that's not even mentioning the larger pool of water, so we're never running out of this stuff. Now, it is being shared with the fractones, although I can't imagine these fucking rocks need to drink a lot of water. What do they even use it for? Cleaning their rock dishes after they finish eating sand or whatever? Do you think they eat sands? Actually, you know, the feast layer just has a big burger you can climb? That's probably what deserts are like for them. Just absolute paradises made of food. What I'm trying to say is that the water is probably fine, though. All we need now is food ourselves. Now, deserts are fairly famous for the fact that there's not a lot to eat in them, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing. There is a garden here with a grand total of 1 vegetable in it. That vegetable, of course, being the biggest turnip you've ever seen in your goddamn life. By taking a screenshot of this thing and comparing it to DK and using this formula for a sphere, because, I mean, what other shape would I use here? I estimate there to be about 467,901,888 cubic centimeters of turnip. Assuming this turnip has the same nutritional makeup as a regular turnip, that'll mass about 131,012,528 calories, or 179 years worth of food. That's pretty good. Now, there is a pretty obvious downside to getting all of this food from a single plant, being, I can't eat 179 years worth of food before the turnip begins to rot. Much like myself, turnips quickly begin to rot once you peel the skin off. And yeah, can't really eat a turnip without cutting it open. The one good thing about being in the desert though is that it's hot and dry, making it fairly easy to dry food out quickly, taking away the precious moisture required for bacteria and fungi to grow in our food. By cutting this turnip into thin sheets and then leaving it out in the sun, the underground sun, there's no sun, is there? Okay, never mind. Sun-drying food isn't going to really be an option here. If we want to preserve this turnip, we're going to need to find another way. Now, the fractones do have these covered jars, which is typically the kind of thing you would store and preserve food in. So I would say we ask them for help, but you can actually take the lids off these jars and they're full of dirt. These fuckers actually do eat dirt. But that means we're going to need to figure out something unique for ourselves. Now, normally, I would advise against property destruction, but no one really seems to give a shit when DK does it to their house, so I'm going to assume they won't care when I rip up all the fences and wood boarding around the village and use it to start a fire. Laying our strips of turnip next to the fire, or better yet, smoking them over the fire, will achieve the same result as drying them out in the sun. If we then store these properly in a nice cool container, these dried turnip slices could ideally last up to a year, but that's pretty much going to be the absolute limit of how long we can make this turnip last, and we're not going to be getting any more turnips after this. You see, turnips are a root vegetable. That means you kind of gotta kill the plant to eat it. And these things take 2 years to grow and begin to produce seeds. And edible turnips like this produce no seeds whatsoever. They cease to be edible before they actually begin to produce seeds. So, in order to maximize our turnip supply, we're not going to eat this guy at all. Instead, giving it time to grow into a flowering plant from which we can harvest seeds and in turn plant new turnips. That, however, will take a very long time. So, what are we going to do in the meantime? Remember those cacti? Well, cacti juice is toxic as fuck. Cacti fruit are entirely safe to eat, and these are already flowering, so we can expect some fruit in a few weeks. But cactus typically only bear fruit once a year, and frankly, there's not enough cactuses here to produce enough fruit to keep us alive for that long. So, while we can use these to get some much needed vitamins to hold us over for the next year, we're not going to be getting a ton of calories. However, plants are not the only thing we have to eat in this desert. We have one final source of food we can rely on. In Cuba, iguana are called the chicken of the trees. Now, seeing how insanely fast these things are, I was worried at first we wouldn't be able to catch them at all, just like the moles on the last layer. But after seeing some lizards in real life, I came to the realization that these things are dumb as fucking bricks. If you walk up real slow, you can just kind of grab them and they don't do shit to stop you. I mean, they do bite and scratch, but like, if an animal lets you get within 5 feet of it without running away, you're just one sharp stick away from an easy dinner. And with just how many of these guys there are running around here, I feel like this will be our reliable food source for the first year until we get our turnip farm up and running. And while eating almost exclusively meat for a year isn't exactly healthy, it is certainly survivable. I ate nothing but pepperoni pizza and mac and cheese at college for a year, and the only thing wrong with me now is that I'm kind of stupid, but I don't think I get to blame that on the pizza. But overall, the canyon is not only a surprisingly habitable place, but given the fact that there's a village we can take refuge in as well, if we can eventually get ourselves a house here, this desert may actually be one of the most comfortable places we're going to be able to survive in all of DK Bananza. I mean, those funny rainbows in the sky might give us cancer one day, but we're not dying due to a lack of resources at least. Up next though, we have a special layer that really only exists as a gateway between two others. The Divide. Being what appears to be an entirely artificial environment, there's honestly not a lot for us to work with here. Now, water isn't too hard to get. It would take a bit of work moving these gel puzzles around, but we should eventually be able to get to this cold icy area, which we can use as a water supply. Just grab some snow, put it in our mouths, and leave the icy area when we get a bit too chilly. However, the biggest hurdle here is once again going to be finding nourishment. And while there's a few animals here, they're all larger, intelligent speaking animals who are all happily getting along with each other. We might be able to kill one, but like, then what? Are the others just not going to do anything about it? Not a chance. They'll throw us off the layer and down into the pit if we get violent. So we're going to be stuck here with nothing but bananas. We have 5 right at the start, along with this one we can get underneath the stage by completing this gel staircase puzzle, which brings us to a grand total of 6 bananas worth 48 days worth of nutrition. And then that's it. There's nothing else for us here. Not an amazing place to live. But I guess that's really not what this place was made for, was it? It's just meant to connect 3 different levels together. Even all the characters in this level are just seemingly passing through on their way to another one. So it's probably for the best if we do the same. Let's start off with the left path and see where our water's been coming from. Welcome to the freeze layer, where we are inside an actual freezer the size of a goddamn city. I have no idea who built this or what its purpose is, but just an hour or two of sub-zero temperatures can lead to fatal hypothermia in humans. Our top priority is finding shelter. Fortunately, if we just clumsily tumble our way down this slope, we'll eventually run into a small set of igloos inhabited by bipedal zebras. And it is these igloos that are going to save our stupid lives. See how cold these two are? Well, as soon as DK and Pauline step into an igloo, they stop shivering. I don't know how warm it is in here, but if it's warm enough for a 13-year-old girl to be comfortable, then it should be warm enough for my fat ass too. With shelter located, food is going to be next on the to-do list. However, the first step in securing food isn't going to actually be locating it. Instead, we need to figure out how to protect ourselves from the cold while on the prowl. Now, the best option, of course, is going to be an animal pelt, but our only choice here as far as that's concerned is the zebras. And these zebras are absolutely jacked. They'll kick our goddamn skulls off if we even look at them funny. Just look at those fuckers run. They're running faster than the ice can collapse out underneath them. Not even DK can do that. I mean, this is the level where DK unlocks the ability to turn into a zebra who can run like that too, but he can't do that on his own. Pauline has to sing a little song for him first. If you haven't played this game yet, or just watching this anyway for some reason, these transformations are called Bananzas. There is technically one transformation before the zebra one, but that one just turns DK into an even larger gorilla. That one's less giving him new abilities and more just enhancing what he already has. Do you think she knew he was going to turn into a zebra before she started singing? I don't think anyone ever told him that he was going to turn into a zebra when they started singing. He's not even the same kind of zebra as all the other ones. Imagine you're a Japanese teenager and your favorite American band has come to play in the Tokyo Dome. You find yourself in the front of the crowd on their opening night. A spotlight cast down upon the lead singer. He looks into the crowd. His lips part. Asians! For a moment, you feel confused. Before, out of the corner of your eye, you notice the band's Caucasian backup singer suddenly transform into a Han Chinese woman right before your very eyes. Was it a little racist? Probably. But it was also undoubtedly a show you'll never forget. Anyway, we're not going to be getting a zebra coat. So, plan B. If we head down further into the village, there appears to be a foliage layer on the ground. Now, I have no idea why there's a bunch of plants here in the fucking freezer, but what I do know is that we could potentially use these to make ourselves a jacket. I'm thinking we can just weave all these little leaf stems together to make something like a ghillie suit. But if that doesn't work because the stems can't support the weight, or because I'm just too stupid to weave together a bunch of leaves, I do have a backup plan. I'm gonna tuck my shirt into my pants into my shoes, and I'm gonna stuff both of them full of leaves until I look like a bloated tick. I will look like a fucking buffoon, but it will keep us warm enough to walk around outside without getting hypothermia. So now that we can explore, just where is it we can go for food? Well, there are of course the 5 bananas up at spawn that we had to leave there while searching for shelter. And since we're in a freezer now, once we break them open, we don't have to worry about them spoiling. We actually get to eat the entirety of these bananas over the next 65.7 years. Not a lifetime supply, but a pretty good start. Well, it might actually be a lifetime supply for me. I am getting old, and I don't think I have that much time left. But we're still not done here. It'll be tricky, but we're gonna want to take this gold pillar out of the ground and slide it all the way down to the bottom of the village. Then walk around this mountain and into this cave. You gotta sneak by these 3 rolly guys, but like, they're so goddamn stupid. You can probably just walk by them and it's no problem. The reason we're doing this? Well, so far we've been using this dude's ice cream shop as a shelter to keep ourselves warm. And sooner or later, he's probably going to tell us to stop shoving leaves into our pants and get the fuck out of his store. But once we get enough gold into this cave, that's a-okay, because we can pay this fractone to build us our very own shelter. We're homeowners now. Not a lot of young people buying homes nowadays. All it took me was 30 minutes and an 8-foot pile of gold. I guess kids today just aren't hard workers like we are. With our own shelter, we have our very own place to warm up free of any pesky shopkeepers, and a nice wardrobe to keep all of our leaves in. Plus, if we dig into this pile of snow here, we can find a 6th banana, bringing us up to nearly 79 years worth of food. How would we know this banana is buried underneath the snow here when everything in this level is buried underneath the snow? Well, it's more likely that we'd find this at random than you'd think, because we're going to be doing a lot of digging looking for our next food source. Now, obviously you can't live on just bananas forever. We need protein, and occasionally, when you're digging through the snow, the perfect dietary supplement unveils itself. These little pink bugs. I mean, I say little, but these things are like the size of a small cat. They aren't little at all. Now, when calculating the volume of these little pill bugs, I decided to use the formula for a generic pill. You know, a cylinder with a half sphere on either end. And then I just kind of divided that in two since the bottom half of these guys are flat. Came out to about 13,192 cubic centimeters. But how much nutrition is that exactly? I'm going to base how many calories are in these bugs based off of grasshoppers. Not because they resemble grasshoppers in any way, shape, or form, but instead because grasshoppers are one of the only 2 bugs I could find nutritional data online for. And I mean that these things are closer to grasshoppers than scorpions in my mind. Now, grasshoppers, on average, weigh about 100 grams, with 153 calories for every 89 cubic centimeters of volume. So, based on that, we have 22,678 calories in these little shits, assuming we can eat the whole thing. It has over 11 days worth of food, and more importantly, 3,053 grams of protein, well over what your average human needs for an entire month. We now have a reliable source of protein, and if the bananas and bugs aren't enough for you, there's even 3 massive turnips in this cave next to our home. Bring these out into the snow, and we have more than enough here to last us an entire lifetime. Combining all this with our home and easy access to both water and an ice cream shop, we're sitting pretty comfy. I mean, we're still walking around with a shirt full of leaves to keep ourselves warm, so I'm knocking this one out of the top tier of habitability just for that, but certainly not the worst layer we could have ended up in. Anyway, let's go back to the one we skipped to see one of the worst layers we could have ended up in. The forest layer, home of my favorite power-up, the ostrich bonanza. It gives you the ability to fly for a short period of time, and it turns DK into a woman. I don't really think they thought through the implications of having him lay eggs as an ability. Anyway, we start off here in this little area where we have not only our 5 starting bananas, but also 3 more giant radishes. However, this is all we're getting, because we're not going to be moving forward from this point. You gotta throw a fuck-ass giant seed onto a tree to progress, and there is not a human alive that could throw something this big that far. Overcoming the air resistance alone is impossible. We're stuck here, but it's not like there's anything over there that would have helped us anyway, because I could not find a single drop of fresh water in this entire level. All there is swamp water, and you can't even touch this stuff without taking damage. I would normally suggest boiling the water to have the water vaporize and be distilled, but I mean, I don't know what the poison is here. Boiling it could just put the poison in the air and kill us even faster. Plus, the fact that DK gets damaged just by touching it implies that it's chemically reactive to our flesh too. We shouldn't be messing with this stuff under any circumstances. This poison swamp never even goes away throughout the course of the game either. Like, there's a mission to take out all these plants, filling the swamp with poison, but it's still poisonous after that. All we did is lower the water level. Do these ostriches always live like this? In theory, there is one way a human could survive here. You see, the ostriches are running a 10-star hotel, and presumably, they would offer fresh water with your stay. But I don't have money to stay at a 10-star hotel. Have you ever even stayed at a 5-star hotel? Those places are expensive as shit. Plus, considering we can't even get to the 10-star hotel, this level is no good. So, it's time for us to move onwards and downwards to the Junction. Now, this area is special because this level is the only one in the game with 2 separate spawn locations depending on where you're coming from, either the freeze layer or the swamp layer. Not that it really matters to us though, because everything on both sides is covered in void metal, and Pauline needs to use her immaculate singing voice to uncover any of the resources here. Now, I've received many compliments about my own voice over the years. I've been told that my voice is very gender, and I've been told that I have the voice of a bottom, but I have never once been told that I have the voice of a musically gifted child. So I probably couldn't break this void metal, and I would be dying of dehydration in just a few short days. Now, while the last few layers have been becoming more and more inhospitable, we have at long last come to what is perhaps the most pleasant looking level in the entire game. The resort layer. Now, of course, we have plenty of fruit to eat here, but you can't live off fruit alone. We need protein, and while it's not really the focus of this level, there are plenty of crabs and sea stars we can pick off the beach, along with a bunch of fish in the ocean. Now, fish can always be a little bit harder to catch, but if we take some of the wood that's lying around here, we can always create a little spear, and do a little spear fishing. In fact, we probably don't even need to eat any of the fruit at all. These fish and crabs will do just fine for our food supply. But just because we don't need the fruit for food doesn't mean we don't still need these fruit. We are on a beach after all, and we can confirm by talking to people that this is a saltwater ocean. So we're gonna need to use these fruit anyway for the fresh water that's inside. Now, all these fruit are hollow for some bizarre reason, but there's still plenty of fruit to be had here. And if you hit this button on top, you can smash them all at once. That, combined with our handy dandy stat tracker, allows us to see how much fruit there actually is in each one of these things, and in turn, the amount of water and calories we have access to. These strawberries have 4,659 cubic meters of straw in them, which, assuming they have the same water and calorie amounts per square centimeter as a normal strawberry, means they're worth 964,963,225 calories and 1,120,007 gallons of water. And there are 13 of these things on the beach. That is 1,321 years of food and 3,068 years worth of water each. That is way more juice than we could ever drink in a lifetime. And all in an easily accessible bunch of fruit. Plus, the frac don't even say that they make these. So, over the years, we can expect them to grow more of these for us to drink out of. Life is looking pretty cozy here at the resort. All there is left for us to do is get ourselves a little house, lay back, and enjoy the cool ocean breeze.
Listen up, DK. That fruit, I don't know if it's because it's sitting in seawater or what, but I took a bite and it was so salty, I got tears in my eyes.
Oh no. Of all the stupid things this kid could have said to me as I was about to leave this level, you had to tell me that these fruit I spent the last 2 hours measuring are full of fucking salt? Alright, everything I just said about the water, scratch all that. There's no fresh water in this layer whatsoever. But there is salt water, and salt water is still water. We just gotta pull all the salt out of it so that we can actually get some of that good drink juice. And I actually have a pretty simple solution for this. We're just going to need to build a desalinator. Now, I know some of you watching don't know what that is, so to summarize it quickly, we can take a bowl of salt water and heat it to force the water to evaporate. That no good salt will be left behind, and the water vapor will recondense onto an object we place above it. And if we slant that object, the water will then drip off down to the edge of it, eventually falling off into a second container we can then use to hold the now salt-free water. Now, the big problem here is we're going to need fire to heat the water, but with how many trees there are around here, that really shouldn't be too much of a problem. We will need to constantly plant new trees around all these islands to make sure we never run out of wood, but it's a manageable solution. Plus, we can even grab some seaweed and dry it out on the shore to use as well if we don't want to touch any of the wood to burn. So, a bit more work than it initially seemed, but even with all these shitty fruit full of lies, our vacation home is still secure. But what if instead of a wonderful underground sun-filled vacation spot, we landed somewhere somehow even more damp than the ocean? The Tempest layer, a layer full of autistic elephants, all of whom have the exact same hyperfixation on weather forecasting. Today's forecast: storms likely. Thank you. I had no idea. Look, I'm gonna give it to you straight. We have just as much water here as on the last layer, but now, instead of on the ground, it's in the sky. And shelter isn't really that big of an issue either. We do have to make it past this weird glue platform to get to that shelter, and DK normally has to lower it by sticking a boulder to the bottom of it. Obviously, we can't chuck a boulder 20 feet in the air like DK, but what we can chuck is 1,000 little pebbles at it. So eventually, we'll be able to weigh this thing down enough all the same, and access the little elephant shelter over here. Our only real problem in this layer is going to be locating food. Now we have 3 bananas right at the start we have access to, but that's really it. All the other bananas here would be inaccessible to a normal human, and I don't think we could even progress further into this level, because you need to go down this ramp with all these sticky glue bats while chucking boulders at this platform to lower it at the end to move further, and well, I think we might be able to get this platform down eventually. I don't think we can do that while dodging all these fuck-ass glue bats the entire time. We're stuck at the top of the elephant city with no food. But like, the elephants have to be eating something, right? I just don't know what it is. They never once seem to mention any food whatsoever. All they talk about here is the fucking weather. I know it's raining, but I am hungry. Shut the fuck up about the rain. Our best bet here would be to try to figure out how to join their society so we could get a job and find food the same way everyone else does. But like, have you ever tried to find a job before? As I've mentioned before, that shit ain't easy even when there's job openings, and I don't see these guys in need of any particular labor. All they care about is forecasting the weather, and I don't think there's any shortage of weathermen around here. I think we're going to be unemployed with no secure food source. Do you think we could beg for food? Surely they'd feel bad for us and give us something to eat, right? I mean, there's just no way a civilized society would let someone starve to death on the street just because they can't find a job, is there? Just gonna put this one right here and we can move on. But you know where a lot of unemployed people live? The landfill. I don't actually think that's true, but I do need a transition to our next layer. The landfill layer. This layer is trash, and not just because it's full of garbage, but instead because I don't think there is a single drop of liquid water anywhere to be found here. Okay, that's not entirely true. If you dig about 300 feet down through the dirt and sand, you eventually find some mud, but like, I don't think we should be sucking the water out of the mud at the bottom of a dumpster. And I mean, even if you wanted to. Have you ever tried to dig even just 6 feet down into the dirt before? It takes like 4 hours, 40-ish minutes normally. Double that if it's wet. And we only have 72 hours before we die of dehydration here. We're simply not going to be getting 300 feet down to the mud in time to suck all the moisture out of the dirt. This layer is functionally uninhabitable for us. Honestly, I don't think you could suck enough water out of mud anyway to keep yourself hydrated, but either way, it's best to keep heading down to the next sublayer. Sublayer 1100. Diddy Kong Racing. After being missing for the last 10 layers, the chimps are back, and they're being fucking racist again. This Fractone is trying to enter the race, and this dude's telling him he needs to be a little bolder. Dude, do not make a pun about his ethnicity. Let that rock race. Why won't they let him race? You can't tell me that this rhino can carry an 800-pound gorilla and run through a solid field of gold, but somehow can't carry a fucking rock on his back. This is just straight up discrimination. And once again, we are not chimps, so this discrimination we too are likely to face. The surface chimps, however, are a bit more used to seeing humans than the Lagoon chimps, so I doubt they're going to immediately force us out the way they would. Plus, humans are technically apes, and you know, you're an ape, I'm an ape. Maybe there's something we could work out between us here, you know? What I'm trying to say is we might be able to sweet talk our way into the Ramby Rumble, but why would we want to spend time racing rhinos when I'm trying to survive? Well, if these chimps have enough time and resources to build a fucking stadium, then they probably have enough food and water to keep themselves alive while they're doing that. And by becoming a high-ranking rampy racer, we can earn their respect, and they may just be willing to let us live with them, just as humans allow star athletes to live among them in real life. Now, I know that saying I'm going to show up and literally beat them all at their own game is kind of absurd, especially when I was just saying how hard it is to get a job, but as humans, we would actually have a unique advantage over all these little spider monkeys. You see, humans are actually larger and stronger than spider monkeys, and thus we can turn these rhino heads and hold them more steadily than the chimps could, providing us superior steering control. That's actually my headcanon about how DK can show up and beat everyone here on his first try too. Diddy can just barely control these rhinos at all. Win enough races, and we can easily become minor sports celebrities. Have you ever seen a Twitch stream before? People throw money at Z-list celebrities like there's no tomorrow. Get a few fans, and there's no way they'll let us starve here. We'd pretty much be set for life, honestly. But that's still assuming they'd be less racist towards us than these rocks. And these rocks are pretty cute, so I find that hard to believe. What do we do in this scenario where we are relegated to second-class citizenship? Well, we do have a freshwater stream here to drink from, and I think that we would be able to access 5 of the bananas in this level. 6 if we can talk to this Quizmaster guy. Not sure how this would work for us. I don't think as a person randomly showing up here, we would know the answers to all these quiz questions, but like, he kind of just lets you multiple choice your way through it with unlimited retries, so I'm sure we'll get it eventually. And after that, there are some yummy rats to eat. But I don't think people typically live too long once they have to start resorting to eating wild rats. They're not easy to catch and only have a couple hundred calories on each of them. Meaning, the most likely scenario here is that we are going to starve if we are not accepted into chimp society. And given the fact that Diddy is watching this act of intolerance unfold in front of him and not saying anything about it, I fear we may not be able to convince him to let us race. You may say that that's a harsh judge of character for someone simply choosing inaction. I, however, would retort that passivity is complicity. I simply don't expect him to help a human in need. I'm putting this level down as temporarily survivable, but just know, if we can get into that race, this might be the best layer in the game to live in, as we would become a minor celebrity with all of our needs met by the people who support us. Moving on, we next have the Radiance layer. Ever wonder why all these underground caves have so much light in them? Well, we finally have the answer. Big ass lamps. I guess it's not a very interesting answer when you kind of say it out loud like that. Anyway, this is another desert level, except this time there is no water whatsoever. Really, not that much for us here at all, except for the fact that we get to see the snake bonanza, where DK is transmogrified into a biblically accurate snake with limbs. DK is the only snake free of sin, apparently. Here's a fun gamer fact for those of you watching from the retirement home. Remember the original Donkey Kong? This little shimmy sham Pauline does is actually based on her idol animation in that game. I guess when DK kidnapped her in this game, she was just kind of into it. Straight up grooving the entire time. Help! I'm having too much fun. Mario wasn't being a hero in this game. He was being a fucking buzzkill. He probably wasn't even stopping a kidnapping at all. Think about it. If Mario really was stopping DK from kidnapping a child, then why were Mario and Peach caught hanging out with DK after the fact? Just what were they doing at those parties on that island? Something isn't adding up, and I think the mushroom media is working with the crown to cover up scandals about the monarch's boyfriend by falsely painting him as a hero. Remember that time Toadsworth publicly told the princess she shouldn't do something, and he was never seen in a game again? What exactly do you think happens in an absolute monarchy when you question the sovereign? Welcome to Super Jail, located on sublayer 1300. This is a prison made entirely out of solid stone on all sides. To progress further in this game, DK needs to physically break out. We are not doing that. However, why would we ever want to? After all, a very important part of keeping prisoners is keeping those prisoners alive. Out of all the levels in this game we're trying to survive in, this one might just be the easiest to do it in, at least at first. You see, once DK breaks out of the jail, it turns out they were about to let him out anyway. They arrested him for a crime someone else committed, and it just took them like 2 hours to figure it out, which probably means they're going to let us out of jail too, and the Fractones will no longer be obligated to keep us alive. So, what's there for us to keep ourselves alive in this prison? Well, we have a grand total of 1 banana. And if we can somehow figure out how to break this void metal generator, which I mean, just smack it with a rock a few dozen times, that should do the trick. We would then be able to dig through the floor here and access this pool of water. Big problem when I fall into the water. There's some place to stand, but there's such an insurmountable amount of dirt we need to clear out here to get back to the main room that it's probably impossible to do this all yourself if you aren't outputting a fucking kiloton of TNT worth of force every time you swing your arms like DK. So, once we come down here, we're stuck here. However, seeing that, again, all we have to eat is 1 banana. We could just spend the first couple of days here eating that until it begins to rot and then just jump down here to drink for the rest of our lives while we slowly starve to death. Trying to live a whole lifetime with just 1 piece of food is going to be pretty difficult no matter how you cut it. But what if we tried a place where that 1 piece of food was larger than we could ever hope to eat in an entire lifetime? As the name suggests, the feast layer is not an easy place to go hungry in. We got cheese walls, potato floors, and of course, the 300-foot tall cheeseburger. However, there is one small problem in that when DK first gets to the feast layer, the burger is not available. In fact, we don't even start off in the factory/amusement park where they assemble this thing. We instead start off in this fuck-ass canyon, walled in by a bunch of goddamn acid. On the surface, that actually sounds like a deal breaker, but all DK has to do to get by here is throw a massive hunk of salt at it, and the acid is just kind of neutralized, allowing him to pass by unharmed. Now, of course, we can't throw a salt rock the size of our own torso like DK can, so we'll just have to throw salt one fistful at a time. But slinging shit at the wall and seeing what sticks is kind of my whole YouTube career, so this is nothing I can't handle. Then, once we get to the burger factory, we just need to depress this button to get a burger. Normally, DK would need to slam this with his gorilla might, but if we can just get enough weight on top of the button using like a pile of salt or something, we too can achieve the same effect, eventually forcing it to be pressed down. Then, bam, burger bigger than we could ever consume in a lifetime. Meat, cheese, fats, vegetables, bread, just a little bit of every food group. Cheeseburgers are the perfect food to keep you alive forever. Do not fact check me on that. Look, burgers actually can be pretty healthy if they're prepared properly. Nothing in them is inherently bad for you. It just comes down to how you cook and prepare the meat, and considering they have literal rivers of fry oil around here, I'm going to assume they've prepared this burger in the least healthy way humanly possible. We're basically going to be eating out at McDonald's every day forever, which a lot of people actually do successfully in real life already, so I mean, we may die of heart failure in 30, 40 years, but we're certainly not dying of starvation. Now then, the fun part, water. There's no water. I couldn't find any water in any part of the level we could actually reach. But who the fuck goes to McDonald's to drink shit that comes out of the sink? See that machine behind the counter with the two mechanical nipples hanging off of it? That's a soda machine. At first I thought we would just have to find a job that pays enough to buy soda, but there's actually just one that's outside entirely unsupervised. Like, we may have to pay if we want a cup to drink out of, but like a newborn baby piglet suckling upon his mother's teat, simply latching our lips onto the juice hole and massaging it until a drink comes out is entirely an option here. Alternatively, lettuce is just 96% water, so we could just eat a fucking gallon of lettuce every day instead, but if I gave that option up first, then we wouldn't have gotten to explore all of our suckling options in this layer. And where would be the fun in that? All in all, Burger Town here is a cakewalk as far as survival goes. Hell, if we get enough gold, there's even a nice bit of shelter we can buy to keep ourselves cozy. This level, though, we'll still be missing out on the top tier of survivability, because at the end of the day, there's still nothing comfortable about living with heart disease. We're surviving, but we are not thriving here. This is not a good way to live. But that's enough of the feast layer, because it's time to move on to the penultimate layer of the game. Welcome to the forbidden layer. Get out. There is no food, there is no water, and there is no reason you should be here. You need to take the hint and fall back up that hole you came down. I'm not really sure what they want us to do about it if we just fall down here, but regardless, they're not going to be letting us through. Unless, of course, we slip them a 20. These guys are such shit guards. But just what is it that they're poorly guarding? Well, it's the thing we've been trying to reach this entire game, the Bananium Core. Remember those dirt bananas we've been eating? Well, the Bananium Core is the physical object at the center of the earth they've been growing out of. Also, gold. It makes gold too for some reason. That's why Void Kong has been digging to the center of the earth to get it. Also, it grants wishes. It makes wishes come true for some reason. It basically does whatever the game needs it to do at any particular moment. It is the most important thing in the game. It is teased throughout the game. We have been trying to get it the entire game, and now that we finally see it, it is a big fucking yellow nipple. Oh my god, is DK gonna suck the banana milk out of the Earth's nipple? Except, plot twist, everyone was wrong. This isn't the Bananium Core. This nipple actually belongs to someone else entirely. That person being that guy from Super Smash Bros. It's fucking K-Rool. He's just been buried underground for the last 2 decades for some dumbass reason. How did he get here? How did he survive in the sand here with no food or water for so long when he's clearly supposed to be dying of dehydration after 3 days? We never even get to find out. Fuck you for caring about the story in the Nintendo game. K-Rool never explained shit. He's too busy to make his own plot make sense. He's off to go make 9/11 into a real life thing. But if K-Rool's sensually shaped stomach wasn't the Bananium Core, that means we're still not done with this stupid fucking game. And buckle up, cause shit's about to fly off the fucking rails. This game goes fucking wild in the last 10 minutes. Welcome to the planet core, the middle of the earth. As far as gameplay goes, this is by far the longest level in the game, and it is almost entirely combat, not something we can really compare to DK on. If we landed where DK spawns in, we would not be getting far. However, it really doesn't matter where we would land in this level, because there's no water to be found anywhere here. Once again, not a great place to live. All we have are 20-foot tall crocodiles, these rocks, and anti-homeless architecture as far as the eye can see. And unfortunately for us, we are the homeless here. This layer is no good.
The planet core is where all the fractones come from, right? So, if all the fractones visited home at once, it'd be the underground world's biggest rock festival. It's funny because they're rocks. Ugh, good night.
Man, just all racial humor with her, isn't it?
Bet you dreamed about bananas, didn't you?
But despite already being at the center of the earth, we still have a way to keep digging to new areas. Those areas being the other side of the earth from where we started the game. Quick story summary for those who didn't play the game. None of this is going to make any sense to you, and that's not because I'm bad at summarizing stories. That's just because this game makes no sense. Void Kong. He's gone now. He ceased to exist the moment K. Rool appeared on screen. K. Rool is the new villain now. K. Rool. He successfully gets to the actual Bananium core and wishes for unlimited banana mush to eat. Real big thinking there, buddy. We beat his ass, and DK proceeds to wish for unlimited bananas to eat, which is pretty much the same thing. In retrospect, I'm not sure why we're even fighting. Everyone could have walked away happily here. I think K. Rool and DK might just hate sharing more than they love bananas. Like we're literally talking about unlimited bananas. This is like fighting someone for trying to breathe the same air as me. This whole boss fight is nothing more than an exercise in wasting my goddamn time. I kind of regret being here at all after this, honestly. Likewise, Pauline also wishes she could just go the fuck home. The Bananium core, hearing this, decides it too wishes to leave, and so they all fuck off together on a giant banana pillar that stretches from the core of the earth all the way up to the surface. More specifically, in New Donk City. It's the place from the last game, guys. Which means that now there's another fucking place I gotta put on the chart. How long can you survive in New Donk City? Well, it's just the Mario universe equivalent of New York City, and 8 million people already manage to survive there every day, so it would probably be pretty straightforward. But remember, we're spawning into these levels in the same conditions DK does, and that means we're arriving 20 seconds before K. Rool gets his hand on the Bananium core again, and makes a second wish, this time flooding the streets with boiling hot banana mush. Oh, I'm sorry, did you think I was joking about the terrorist attacks earlier? No, this game ends with what I can only describe as the Mario universe equivalent of 9/11. DK can't even touch this stuff without getting burnt. These people are fucking dead. Like, everyone out in the streets that day died, right? Like, anyone next to an open window, anyone who was in a store with an open door, all dead. Look at this shit. There are fucking banana dragons. He didn't even wish for those. The core is just fucking evil, dude. There's no way you survive this. I think K. Rool might actually have a higher body count than Bin Laden. Honestly, that was probably true before he killed anyone. And the worst part of all this, we would be one of these people in the street when it was happening, which means I'm gonna have to put down the Metro Kingdom as the least survivable place in all of DK Bananza. Near instant death would be inevitable for us. And normally, that's it. That's the end of the game. But if you pay $20 goddamn dollars for the worst DLC I've ever seen in my life, you get to access one brand new level with no content except for this stupid emerald minigame, DK Island. Do you think they carved this mountain into the shape of DK after he was born? Or was an ape just born one day who looked like their home island and everyone decided that he was their leader now? DK Island is a tropical getaway with crabs and fish to eat aplenty. 2 freshwater waterfalls, and a lot of little caves we can use as shelter. There's also a ton of bananas everywhere, but I think half of the Donkey Kong games are about DK trying to kill people for trying to take his bananas, so we're just not going to touch those. In fact, The only thing that could provide any source of difficulty to living here is the fact that we would need to share the island with a bunch of gorillas and monkeys. Normally, a pretty perilous environment to be in, honestly, but Donkey Kong can drive a car. Diddy Kong has his pilot's license. These are not normal apes. They're intelligent, and although very instinctual, they do possess capacity for complex reasoning and thought. And DK actually gets along with humans pretty well. He apparently understands English well enough to communicate with them, he plays golf with them, he parties with them, and he races with them. Plus, thanks to his status as a family-friendly mascot for the Nintendo Corporation, DK has been meticulously focus tested and designed to be highly agreeable and easy to get along with as humanly possible. Just give him a banana, and he's your friend forever now. Our real problem here is going to be Diddy. What does he do when he's in games with humans? He fights them, he smacks them, he shoots them with a gun. I have never seen Diddy Kong have an interaction with a human that didn't end in violence. Those games don't count. As we've already established earlier in the game, Diddy Kong has used his capacity for higher level thought to develop racial prejudice. But that honestly shouldn't be a problem here, because DK is the top dog. He loves humans, and most importantly, once we befriend DK, he can blast Diddy Kong into a fine red mist with a single punch if he ever fucks with us. So, as long as we stay on DK's good side, DK Island will easily end up being one of the most survivable locations in the entire game. And that's every area in DK Bananza ranked based on survivability. Let me know if there's anything you think should be ranked differently, or if you want to see any particular games in the future. Remember to smack all the buttons under this video so that I get recommended by the algorithm. And a very special thank you to all of my channel members and supporters on Patreon. Your kindness and generosity are as deeply layered as the hollow earth beneath us. And I love you all. Alright, bye-bye.
Donkey Kong is here!